Hey everybody, it's me again. Things have been going great. I'm sorry I haven't updated in a while. Let me tell you about Miss Marley Ray Crawford's journey into the world. August 1st, around then and around there, I could tell that I had dropped. Totally. I could breathe better. I was feeling a lot more pressure in my lower regions. I knew it was going to come soon. I nested like crazy. I literally think I washed all of her clothing from like 0 newborn to like 12 months, 5 or 6 times a piece at least. So August 19th, I was on bed rest and my mom had a bed. I was staying at my mom's house because it was easier to not do things with being on bed rest, where if we had been at our house, it would have been, I'd have been cleaning, I'd have been cooking dinner, that kind of thing. So I was at my mom's house. We had our bed in the spare bedroom, and then there was also a bed out in the living room, so that way I wasn't always secluded. I could come out and sit down in the living room, lay down, hang out with the family, that kind of thing. So it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was so tired. I lay down on that bed in the living room and went to sleep. Well, I woke up, I looked at the clock, it was like 3:04, and I felt like I had to pee really bad. And so as I went to get up, I noticed a little pee, quote unquote, coming out. And I was like, oh God, moved a little bit again, and I could feel a little bit more, and I was like, if I pee on this bed, I'm dead. My mom's gonna kill me because I peed on her bed, And so I just got up really quick. And when I got up, my water broke everywhere. And I'm just standing there in total shock. And my dad's sitting in the recliner watching TV. And his back is towards me. So I guess he heard me get up or something, because he turned around and looked at me in the face and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I think my water just broke." And he looks down at the floor and sees this puddle of water and me gushing. And his face just went from like this, like quizzical, like, "Are you okay?" like to like, oh my God. It was great. And so he panicked and was, calling my mom. She was sleeping too, and he was just, "Barbara, Barb." It's my mom's name. And, he runs in there, and I call, my husband who's at work, and I'm like, "My water just broke." And he's like, "What do you mean your water broke?" And I'm like, "My water broke. I'm going into labor." And he's like, "Your water broke. Seriously. You have no more water left. Your water is all gone. There is no more water." And I'm like, yeah, that's about the gist of it. So, call my sister up as well, because she lives literally 5 minutes down the road. She comes, she helps me, because I hadn't had my bags packed at that point. I was 35 weeks in a day. And everything had been going smooth until then. So I'd had the diaper bag packed. I just hadn't had my bag packed. So I threw on a dress really quick and didn't even bother to put on undies, because I knew they were just going to be coming off anyway. I packed socks and stuff like that, some chapstick, the camera, extra batteries, that kind of stuff. Her baby book, and then we grabbed her baby bag, which I'd already packed. And then we were off. Well, so we thought. So we laid down a couple of towels in the car, because my water was still leaking, that we wouldn't get, the seats wet or anything. We get there, and, I get wheeled in, and they have nothing ready for me. I had called the doctor on the way there. He said they were going to have everything ready for me. They had nothing ready. So they're like, "Well, we're going to have you wait." And I'm like, "No." And so I got up and I waddled into a room, and I was like, "I'm here. This is where I am." I was so not with it. So they were like, "That's fine. It's an empty room. It's one we're going to put you in anyway." So I go in, I take my clothes off first thing, I get the gown on, I lay down in the bed. The lady comes in, gets my name, all that kind of stuff, and the doctor comes in, and is like, "I need to check you and make sure your water broke, because 9 times out of 10, women think their water has broken, and it's actually that they've urinated on themselves." So he gets me up in the gurney, and he's checking, and he's like, "Yeah, you definitely broke your water." He's like, "I can see it leaking." He's like, "But we have to get that cerclage out before the contractions start." Thank God that they hadn't started yet. Thank God. So, taking the cerclage out. Let me tell you. So he put me up in the little feet stirrups and raised the bed up as high as it could go. They had this huge light. I felt like I was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Alien movie, with this huge light shining on me like an interrogation room light. You know, I almost felt like, oh gosh, am I going to be in a police lineup? But yeah, it was the removal of the cerclage itself was not painful at all. I didn't actually even feel it. What was painful was the forceps that they have to open you up with. I was going through hell. Like, to me, at that moment in time, labor was going to be a breeze because that was the worst pain I had ever felt. He wasn't very gentle with me. I'm sure that, you know, like all the other doctors I had were so incredibly nice to me, so incredibly gentle. You know what I mean? He just was not gentle. And, you know, I'm crying and I'm like, you know, this really is hurting me. And he's like, you know, I'm so sorry, sweetheart, but he's like, we have to do it fast because of the simple fact that we don't want you to tear. So braved through that. After it was out, he checked me right after, and I was 1 centimeter dilated. Now he checked me, and that all that was done by, like, we got to the hospital at 4. All that was done by like 5:30, 6 o'clock. They had trouble finding Marley's heartbeat. I don't know if it's because I have some extra padding around my midsection or what. But they couldn't, like, they could find it, but then, like, with the little belt thing, and then it would just be gone. And then it would come back again and then just be gone. And so they decided to give me Pitocin to induce me into, you know, to get me to go into labor. Oh, they also, I was supposed to get the check done for strep or whatever it is, where they swab the inside of your vagina for the thing, and I didn't get it. So they had to give me some kind of antibiotic in my hand, and that burned so bad. All throughout labor I had it. But anyway, so they started me on the Pitocin, and they had it up really, really, really high at first, they said, because they wanted to get my, excuse me, I'm sick. They wanted to get my contractions jump-started and get the ball rolling. Needless to say, it worked. They started the Pitocin at 7 o'clock, and at 7:30 they came in. I was still 1, and at 8 o'clock my contractions were a minute apart, a minute in duration, and I was still 1 centimeter dilated. I was in so much pain. I cussed everybody in that room. I felt so bad. My mom was trying to talk me through the contractions, and I was like, Mom, just shut up. She's like, but I'm trying to talk to you. And I'm like, I just want total silence during these contractions. Just shh. And then on top of the contractions and on top of the burning hand because of the antibiotics, it was just, oh, it was so rough. They had put a blood pressure cuff on me to monitor my blood pressure that was too small. So it was literally squeezing the life out of my arm. So at one point I was so angry, I just tore the thing off and threw it across the room. I was done with it. And so I stayed at 1 centimeter with my contractions being a minute apart for another hour. Around 9:15, I was like, I can't do this. I want the epidural, and I want it now. So they had me wait until about 10 o'clock. And then they said, you know, he's coming. He should be here very shortly. I sat on the end of the bed, and he came in at like 10:15. Did the epidural. I laid down. You know, on my side, they have to have you like propped up for the epidural to work. And by 11 o'clock, I was 9 centimeters dilated and ready to push. I was so scared. So I started pushing at 11 o'clock. I could still feel like a lot of pressure. Like people say they can't feel anything with the epidural. No, ma'am. I could feel the urge to push. I mean, it was big time. Like how women say that they can't feel that urge, I will never know. No amount of drugs could have blocked that urge. Yeah. So started pushing at 11 o'clock at night on the 19th, and around, I don't know, 12 o'clock in the morning on August 20th at 12 o'clock in the morning, you know, he looked worried. He called in a bunch of nurses. I was too out of it with pushing and everything. I was exhausted to know what was going on. This one lady shoved an oxygen mask in my face, and like I moved my face away like this, you know what I mean, to try to, you know, try to let her understand that I didn't want it on me without her asking me, her telling me, or anything. And she just like shoved it on my face and was like pressing it against my nose and my face. And I yelled at her and I said, "Lady, you're suffocating me, get away." And she's like, "You have to have this on. I need it to be on you. I won't put it on you, but I'll put it next to your face." So she put it like maybe an inch away from my face where it wasn't on me, but I was still getting the oxygen. At 12:41, Miss Marley Ray Crawford made her way into the world. She weighed 5 pounds 9 ounces and was 19.5 inches long. The reason for the oxygen mask was that she had had her umbilical cord wrapped around her neck twice, which I also had. So my mother was hysterical. You know, so mother like daughter. You had your umbilical cord wrapped around your neck, and so does Marley. And it was a mess. But that was why they wanted to give me oxygen, because her heart rate level was dropping down low. I tore very little. The doctor said that he normally, you know, wouldn't, any other doctor normally wouldn't have sewn me back up. It was a very minuscule tear apparently, but he felt better, you know, repairing it, so he did that. She was fine at 35 weeks and 1 day. No problems whatsoever. Her hands and feet were a little blue because her circulatory system hadn't fully developed yet. But other than that, she was fine. She latched on great. She had the cutest little cry. It was more of a little squeak. I call her Squeaker still. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Absolutely amazing. You know, when we left the hospital, I felt great. I had not felt that good in a long time. Like, I felt great throughout my entire pregnancy, even being on bed rest. But, like, I felt great. I felt totally, it was so nice to sleep on my stomach again. Like, oh man, I can't even, it was just amazing. So, you know, we went home. Before we went home, the ladies had explained to my husband and I that she had been a little jaundiced. At that point, it wasn't anything that they were worried about, so they sent us home. We went home on Saturday afternoon at like noon. Monday morning, she had had her first doctor's appointment, and we get in there, and he was really worried about her bilirubin level, which is what causes jaundice. And so he checked it, and it just so happened that right after that, we had an appointment with WIC to go, you know, put her on the formula and everything like that. While we were there, he called and said that her bilirubin level was abnormally high, and that he was calling the St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which is about 15 minutes down the road from the WIC place, that we needed to go there right away. So we finished up there and then went over to the hospital, and the scariest thing ever, oh man, was I cried like a baby. They had to give her an IV because under the heat lamps and everything, it would suck the moisture out of her skin, out of her body, and everything like that. And they also said that the fastest way to get rid of the jaundice was not only to be under the billy lamps, but was to have fluids constantly running, because the bilirubins come out in the urine. So they were like, you know, if you want to watch us do it, you're more than welcome to. Which at that point, as a new mom, I was like, I want to be there for my daughter, you know. So they had a little special room. They went in there, and they stuck it in her hand, and they couldn't get it to stay. They stuck it in her foot and couldn't get it to stay. They stuck it in her other foot and couldn't get it to stay. And by this point, she was just screaming, and she was all bandaged everywhere, and I couldn't handle it. So I walked out. And then they bring her back into the room, and she has this IV in her head, taped to her head. That's the only place they could get it in. I called it Igor because that's what it reminded me of. So she